Hi, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're calling in from. We're going to go ahead and get started, and maybe we'll have a few more people join in later. But if you have any questions as I'm presenting, please feel free to type those in the chat box or comment box. So the title of this series is Progress in 30 Minutes or Less. Today's focus is Scholarship Secrets. My name is Devin Putnam. I'm the Vice President of Student Engagement, and I work at the American Sentinel College of Nursing and Health Sciences at Post University. So our small college, which is a part of Post, we focus on nursing students. But this Scholarship Secrets presentation is for anyone who may be a student currently, anyone who is thinking about going back to school anywhere, and just has interest in how to search for scholarships and its tips and tricks for applying. I've been with American Sentinel for 10 years this August. Prior to that, I was a high school English teacher, so I worked quite a bit with scholarship applications, and I'm on the scholarship committee here at the university. So we'll go ahead and jump into the first slide. I wanted to start with the search. How do you find scholarships? If you are currently in school or thinking about going back to school, my very first tip would be to speak to your admissions advisor or your student success advisor or coach. Often universities and colleges offer scholarships that they may not tell you about in the admissions process. They have so much to go over about curriculum and resources and time to complete that they may forget to mention scholarships. So I have a screenshot. This is just of our Post University site about ways to pay for school. You can see that we have scholarships. The Yes You Can Nursing Scholarship. We have scholarships for people who serve rural health populations. So there are many options there. Additionally, many schools will offer tuition discounts if you work at a partner institution or maybe you're a member of a certain organization. So it's always worthwhile to ask admissions or a student success coach where you can find scholarship information. Accreditation websites have scholarships. For example, we're accredited by many bodies, but one of them is the DEAC, the Distance Education Accrediting Commission. They have scholarships for students who are going back to school. And then there are websites that are almost like search engines that help you find scholarships related to who you are and that fit your qualifications. You fill out a little bit of a profile. Two of the most popular sites are FastWeb and then scholarships.com. I wanted to mention that these people definitely, if you fill out a profile and search for scholarships, they will definitely target you with advertisements and emails as things come up, but they are very helpful. They have reminders about scholarship deadlines, and they'll give you the ability to see which scholarships fit your qualifications, and you can sort and organize through kind of the repository that they give you. So those are nice free resources for you to look at if you're looking just to apply for many scholarships. I wanted to move ahead to the next slide. So I have a new advisor on my team, and she had some extra time, and I said, I just want to see what you can find through Google. I said, set aside 60 minutes, just 1 hour, and let me know what kind of nursing scholarships you can find. So we focus on nursing because that's what our college is. So I said, please find things that are relevant for students earning a BSN, MSN, nurse practitioner, DNP, or an MBA student or MBA degree. So just within 60 minutes, she typed things about nurses going back to school or nursing leadership, NP. So you can see this list, merit scholarships for nursing students with a minimum 3.2 GPA. There are nursing scholarships based on background. There's one at the bottom for NP students. It would cover full tuition and books. However, you would have to work with a critical care facility. Here's another list of scholarships based on all different backgrounds and qualifications, but this was just an example of what she could find within a 60-minute time slot. We'll be sending this presentation out after this, so you can actually click through the links and look at these in detail. But if you're looking for something in another area, whether it's business or liberal arts, I just wanted to show you that Google is very rich and there's quite a bit to find that's out there. The essay, I believe, from working on scholarship committees is the most important part of your application. I think it's weighted the heaviest compared to letters of recommendation and filling out a personal profile. So I did want to spend the bulk of our time today focusing on the college essay. So the first tip, this sounds very simple, but you would be shocked at how many people don't do this. So the first tip is to hit every single part of the rubric, or in other words, make sure you're checking every box. I know that you may not see a rubric when you're applying for a scholarship, but 99% of the time, scholarships will say what they are being assessed on or how they're choosing winners. For example, this was from an old scholarship that we offered titled The Year of the Nurse. And it said scholarship recipients will be selected based on how well the letters of recommendation and the personal essay showcase the candidate's excellence in the following areas. And then it would list 4 different areas. I know as one of many members of that committee that I had a rubric, and 4 sections of the rubric were community service, personal commitment to education, leadership potential, commitment to the healthcare profession. I would say about 50% or more of the essays would be these well-written essays about how committed someone was to their education or to the healthcare profession, yet never anywhere in the essay did they address community service or leadership position. And those are big fat zeros on 2 large sections of the rubric. So you do want to make sure for any scholarship that you're looking at, you pay careful, very careful attention to how they will be assessed and make sure that you are very clearly hitting every single area. I had a student submit one of the essays for the Year of the Nurse, and they had done such an impressive amount of work in community service. You could tell that they were just this wonderful person who donated so much time and energy to serving the community and working hard. Yet they never hit leadership and they never talked about their commitment to education. The scholarships may go to some people who are not as impressive simply because they have targeted every single area that the scholarship asks them to address. So I can't emphasize enough, first and foremost, how important it is that you look at how will the essays be graded or measured, and then just making sure that you are very carefully addressing each area. I'm going to move on to the next slide. This is an example of showing instead of telling. I used to teach high school English and we talked about this a lot. This was actually from an old scholarship where teachers could nominate other teachers for kind of like a Teacher of the Year scholarship award. So a telling example is when you tell your readers or the scholarship committee exactly what you are, right? I'm a hardworking nurse. So in this example, we wrote, Leslie is one of the most engaging and effective teachers I know. The students love her because she is creative. She comes up with many ways to present material besides just reading and writing. And the students really appreciate this. So you have just told me a lot of information. She's engaging, she's creative, she's well liked by the students. I see this in so many nursing essays. I see this where I work hard, I love my job, I make a difference. It is taking it a step above, and it is much more effective to show people how you work hard. So here's a showing example without saying this teacher is a hard worker or this teacher is creative. You show them with details. So the second example is when you walk past Leslie's classroom, it's not uncommon to hear a spirited debate about Lord of the Flies or the voices of kids performing readers' theater. The walls showcase poetry paintings and character body biographies, and behind her desk, Leslie has every inch covered with thank you letters from at least 100 previous students. The essay is more exciting to read when you're showing people how you've made a difference, And people on scholarship committees love to hear real examples instead of just saying, I make a difference, or I work hard, or this is very important to me. When you show somebody, it really does make a huge difference, and it takes your essay up a notch. We're going to go ahead and move to the next slide. We're still on the essay. This next tip is that opening lines matter. When people are reading scholarship essays, whether it's 10 or 1,000 of them, it gets very repetitive. Many people start with the prompt. It's very boring to read. It kind of turns the reader off right away. So in order to hook people in, I would recommend starting with a story. So in this example, it just says, when I was 8 years old, I received a plastic stethoscope and otoscope for Christmas. I gave every single stuffed animal I owned a checkup that day, and my passion for nursing has not wavered once, even 40 years later. The entire essay does not need to be a story. You can then go into examples of nursing education or into your career path, how you've worked in leadership positions, but at least you started with a story, right? It is a bonus point at the end if you can reference your opening line and really circle your scholarship together to make it very sophisticated and cohesive. For example, a closing line for this essay after going through the whole career or the whole points might be something along the lines of, I know my 8-year-old self would be proud of the journey that I've led so far, and the scholarship would help me go even further, or whatever it might be. But making connection to the beginning is always a very, very nice touch on essays. It looks very thoughtful when you do that. I also wanted to mention starting with a quote. So not just telling a story. As a side note, I want to say only use a quote if it is going to connect to your story or your point or your purpose. I have seen 100 essays throw out a quote about nursing, and I think, but how is this special to you? Because I know that nurses are wonderful and amazing and self-sacrificing. Every essay that I read, there is a deserving person on the other end. So an example is Earl Nightingale once said, never give up on a dream just because of the time it will take to accomplish it. The time will pass anyway. I kept this stuck on my bathroom mirror for 3 years after I decided to go back to school to become a nurse. It's really the second line of that opening that is important. You find a great quote, but then you connect it to yourself, you make it personal to you. It's not going to be something that applies to every single applicant, and then you really focus. So in my head, this essay would then focus on the journey or the hard work that it took to go back to school. Let's move on to the next one. Often scholarships ask for letters of recommendation. To be honest, I don't think these are weighted quite as heavily as the essay, but they are important. So here are just a few short tips for those letters. The first one is to ask early. I know it sounds like a lot, 3 or 4 weeks early if possible. I know that's quite a bit of time, and there may be some instances where you don't have that much time. But I will say, as someone who has written many letters of recommendation, sometimes when I get it the week of, when I get the request the week of, I don't do a great job. I kind of use a template. It's very hard to make it personal and thoughtful without giving the person you're asking a lot of time to do these. When you ask someone, whether that be your boss or a colleague or a friend, to ask you a letter of recommendation, I would highly recommend that you give this author either your resume or just a bulleted list of your achievements. And you don't have to request that they mention every single one, but it's a nice gesture to say, hey, I know that you're doing this for me, and I've been a nurse, or I've been in this field for 25 years. So you may not know some of these things about me, some of the promotions that I've had or awards that I've won. Here's just a quick list, just in case it's helpful. I taught senior English for quite a while, and I feel like every high school student who graduates goes to their senior English teacher to ask for their college recommendation letter. And the kids who had things written down received better letters of recommendation. Even the kids who I knew well, it's hard to remember every single thing about a person. So I would have kids come in, ask for a letter of recommendation, and they would write down a list of their achievements. And I would think, I didn't know that they had won an Eagle Scouting Award. That's something I didn't know as their teacher. Or I didn't know that they cared for 5 younger siblings. I had no idea. So I would always learn this information when I would read over this list of meaningful achievements that they gave me, and it made it much easier to write a thorough and better letter of recommendation. When you request a letter of recommendation, I would definitely say to let the person know what the scholarship is about. If it's a scholarship that is focused entirely on your character or community service, that's important information to give to the writer. If it's supposed to focus solely on leadership, that's also very important information. It should affect the way that they write. So definitely let them know what the scholarship is about. And then finally, I would say that title doesn't matter, but relevancy does. Some people are worried that the highest member of their organization isn't available to write a letter, and that's okay. It can be a colleague, it can be your direct supervisor, but I would say make it relevant to the essay. Sometimes I've been a student advisor here for a long time, and I would have students come in and say things like, oh, can you write me this letter of recommendation? And I would say, is it about your academic performance? Because absolutely. And they're like, no, it's about my work ethic. I can't comment about that. I can't comment about your work life. So just make sure it's a relevant ask. These are very general tips for scholarships, but I wanted to go over them. The first one is to make sure you meet the minimum requirements. For example, if it says that you need a 3.0 GPA to apply for the scholarship and you have a 2.9, don't apply. That's the first thing as a scholarship committee we do, is we make sure every applicant meets all minimum requirements. We don't even look at the essays or the letters of recommendations before looking at that. So I would not waste your time by applying for something that you don't meet the minimum requirements for. I will also say that writing conventions matter. This is a time where it does make sense to have a second set of eyes on your paper. Have someone proofread for commas, for spelling, for overall flow, because things that come across, things that have mistakes on them, it does look lazy, and it appears that almost that you don't care about winning the scholarship. On most scholarship committees I've been a part on, there is a section of the rubric that applies to writing style and grammar, and you could actually lose a significant amount of points if you're not having a second set of eyes on your paper and editing your work carefully. Sing your own praises. This is not a time to be humble. If they want to know how you are a leader in your field, I would give them every example that you can think of, and I would talk yourself up. Do not be shy about it. You can even say, at the risk of sounding vain, and then throw out all of the things that you've done. Definitely talk yourself up. Don't underestimate your odds at winning. A lot of people don't apply for scholarships because they think, oh, there is going to be 1,000 people who apply. That's actually not the case. Things that are well advertised and that are huge awards often do have a lot of applicants, but there are a lot of scholarships out there for $1,000, $3,000, $5,000. Sometimes only a handful of people apply for those. So you would be very surprised. Sometimes you may have a very good shot of winning a scholarship. Obviously, pay attention to deadlines. Most people do cut off the deadlines at the exact day that it mentions. And then if possible, look for local opportunities. I just say this because if you live in a small town or a city, and only people, for example, who live in Denver, Colorado can apply for that scholarship, there are obviously fewer applicants, so you have a better chance of winning. And there are often a lot of local opportunities out there. If you are going to go out and apply for as many scholarships as possible, first of all, good for you. It's effective. I would recommend building a scholarship toolbox. This is where you save everything that you've done. Keep your essays. A lot of times if you write a scholarship essay for one scholarship, that can be taken and molded very easily into part of an application for a second scholarship. Make sure, obviously, you change the important names and information, but I wouldn't start from scratch every single time. Keep your letters of recommendation. If it needs to be, if the focus needs to be shifted, I would send it back to the person you originally asked and say, thank you so much. You wrote this letter of recommendation about my character. Could you add a little bit more information about leadership? I'm applying to a second scholarship. But definitely have those on hand. Have your resume easy to access. That makes it easier for people to write letters of recommendation. And then also, I would consider saving accolades or kind emails, whether it's from your clients or your patients, or whether it's from people who you work with or others that you know. If you win any kind of award, you may not forget that in a week or in a month, but over time, it is easy to forget wonderful things that you've done and ways that you've made a difference. If you save these things, A, it's a great confidence booster for you, but B, it's really nice to be able to refer and reflect on those things when you're trying to present yourself in the best light possible. Finally, I know this was pretty fast, and that's the point of these, is just to quickly go through a topic, hit as many points as we can, kind of give you some ideas for progressing or moving forward. So A, thank you for being here. I know that you're all busy. I appreciate your time. I wanted to know in the chat box if you have any questions that I might be able to answer. And then also, if you email ASC, that stands for American Sentinel College, _partners@post.edu, you could send any follow-up questions there if you don't want to post them publicly here, if you want to learn more about Post University, or if you need anything else. I also wanted to mention that this presentation will be going out to everyone who's attended or who RSVP'd for this call. And that way I know at the very beginning of the presentation, there were a list of scholarship opportunities. There were some other tips. Those should all be available. I know Christiana wrote, it was helpful and informative for me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that kind feedback. That's very nice of you. I know your time is valuable. So thank you for being here. I'll stay on for a few more seconds just in case anyone has any questions, but otherwise, please feel free to email at any time. And thank you again for coming today.